Dating isn't just hard for us, it's also just as hard for superheroes. And in some cases, even harder. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Join me today as we explore the wonderfully terrible and sometimes magical world of awkward superhero dates. Number 10. Magma and Mephisto. It's weird that this one is one of the least awkward dates that's on this list, but really, it is. Magma and Mephisto dated after the New Mutants accidentally got transported to a hell dimension instead of the more specific Hela's hell. As such, Mephisto made a deal to transport them out of his hell dimension where they ended up and into hell with one L in exchange for a date with Amara, aka Magma. Amara accepted the terms and the New Mutants were successfully transported to their destination. Later, the date with Mephisto started off awkwardly as he took her to the third circle of hell and really tried too hard to romance her. However, after Amara called him out on this and Mephisto revealed his sincere intention to simply have a nice, normal evening and be treated as a normal person, the two went out to a restaurant on Earth. Mephisto even got a good night's kiss from Magma at the end of the night, who later agreed to see him again. Number 9. Batman and Wonder Woman. Batman and Wonder Woman have ended up together in the comics before, but they also have lived infinite lives together through Wonder Woman's dreams. When they shared a kiss in the main continuity, it left the two of them wondering if they should be together or not. Before they ultimately made the choice on whether or not to take the plunge, Wonder Woman decided to hook herself up to Martian Manhunter's trans-consciousness articulator, which showed her what kind of potential their life together might hold, at least as far as her own mind saw in regards to possibilities. Although a lot of it was sweet, there was also a lot of dark moments that Wonder Woman saw. In the end, Batman came to her to talk as she woke up and finished her time in the trans-consciousness articulator. The two awkwardly then agreed to stay friends, despite it being obvious that they both perhaps are interested in more. Awkward. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, please head on over to our newest channel, Top 10 Anime, and check them out, where we're going to be talking about cool anime stuff and manga, all the good things. La la la. Number 8. Spider-Man and Captain Marvel. Spider-Man and Captain Marvel may have had the most traditionally awkward date in Marvel history. Carol and Spider-Man had flirted a bit during their time working together, but at one point Spider-Man basically made a deal with Carol to help her in exchange for a date. He was kind of joking, but she ended up accepting, and so they went on this date. The date was extremely awkward just because both Peter and Carol were putting on personas the whole time, going out to a fancy place when they kind of just both wanted to chill and like grab some fast food. Fortunately, some crime intervened and they were able to round out the end of the night with chili dogs on a rooftop after, dealing with the crime, revealing that for both of them this was really the ideal date. Number 7. Squirrel Girl and Wolverine. Although we never saw the dating on panel, in my mind I feel like it would be super awkward. So based on my own headcanon, my own imaginings of the implied relationship between these two, I'm including them together as a point. Why is the relationship between them weird for me? Well, aside from the age difference, which many of you have dismissed here on Nerd in the comments whenever I talk about Wolverine, which is fair enough, bub. At this point, it is very hard for Wolverine, at least while on Earth, to find someone to date who is close to his own age, because yeah, he ancient. It's just weird though, because these two are so very different. Doreen is like a ray of sunshine with a big glass of friendship on the side, and Wolverine is like an old grumpy loner. However, maybe Doreen was able to bring out a side of Logan that we don't normally see. Even if this was the case though, those dates still sound like they would be awkward as heck to me to read, though I kinda really want to read them. It was apparently clarified in the letters page of Unbeatable Squirrel Girl issue number 2 that Wolverine and Squirrel Girl never had a romantic relationship. But based on how they were written together in New Avengers and Wolverine's potential feelings for her as revealed in his own series, I'm not sure I buy it. Also, it's different writers, so every writer can have their own canon about a character, but doesn't always stay true when somebody else is writing. You know what I mean? Number 6. Stargirl and Shazam. Stargirl and Shazam dated for a time, and although it wasn't awkward necessarily for them, well, it did get awkward for them, but it wasn't awkward for them to start. It was awkward for heroes who knew them. But who also didn't know the secret identity of Shazam. You see, Shazam is actually Billy Batson, who is like a teenage kid, like Stargirl, but when he transforms, he appears as the grown man, Shazam. Forced to choose between Stargirl or his secret identity, Billy ultimately chose to keep the truth that he was a child in a man's body as Shazam a secret, which ultimately cost Stargirl and Shazam their relationship, as it was too awkward for everyone else to be talking about the apparent scandal that was their relationship, because, you know, Shazam's an adult and Stargirl's a teenager, so people were like, that's not good. Number 5. Silk and Spider-Man. The whole idea of Silk and Spider-Man as a couple is really awkward. One of the most awkward romantic times they had together was when Peter's roommate, Anna, walked in on them together while they were on the roof, getting busy. The two heroes were bit by the same radioactive spider, which initially in the canon made them obsessively lustful for one another. They literally couldn't turn it off, and, prisoners of their own pheromones, were forced to hang all over one another at any given opportunity, and even at some inopportune times too. Fortunately, this isn't a thing anymore, but for a time, it made their whole dynamic really weird. Number 4. Storm and Dr. Doom. Is there anything more awkward than when your dinner host, after wining and dining you, leans in to encase you in a chrome metal cast? No, I don't think there's anything more awkward than that. Despite the fact that their weird sort of forced dinner date was going well in issue 145 of Uncanny X-Men, Doom decided to ruin it by encasing Storm in chrome. Needless to say, this turn of events on their accidental kind of weird date thing didn't turn out too well for Storm or for Doom either. Storm ends up furious at her predicament, and due to claustrophobia, which she suffered from at the time, created a massive storm that plagued the Earth. Fortunately, once she was out of her casing, the X-Men were able to calm her down somewhat, and disaster was averted. And Storm even let Doom mostly off the hook for that one after he apologized and claimed he wanted a fresh start with her. Number 3. Superman and Big Barda. I suppose we wouldn't technically call this a date, so much as a team up turned sour. This all went down in Action Comics issue 592 to 593, and although it isn't technically a date, it's still really weird and awkward, so I'm including it. Here we meet an old villain from Apocalypse. So old, in fact, not even Big Barda remembers him. His name is Sleaze, and he has a plan to get revenge on Darkseid, who banished him from Apocalypse, and to forge his own army. He plans to use Big Barda's Mega Rod to mind control both her and Superman into making a certain intimate kind of tape that I can't say on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about. Superman came to her rescue, you see, but when Barda was ready to kill Sleaze for taking control of her for the last 2 days, Superman attempted to stop her because he's Superman, and he's like, you can't just kill people, Barda. No! This caused Barda to think that Superman was somehow being controlled by Sleaze, which allowed Sleaze to actually take control of both Superman and Barda once the two turned on one another. Sleaze set them up to get all steamy together in front of the camera, but fortunately, his plan to ship the two heroes intimately for the sake of the public's enjoyment, so he can get that army and make that money, was foiled by Miracle Man, who came to rescue his wife. Number 2. Green Lantern and Arisia Rrab. Maybe one of the most awkward relationships in all of comic book history. Arisia Rrab was initially presented as being like a younger sister figure when it came to her and Hal Jordan's relationship. In fact, I think he even at one point calls her little sister. She was also a member of the Corps, the Green Lantern Corps, but she was also kind of like a kid too. That is until she willed herself to grow up. Why did Arisia do this? Well, because she was in love with Hal and she wanted to be with him, but he refused her advances because he felt it would be wrong. After all, she was a kid, and at the time she was a teenager. He was like, this is not okay. However, his tune changed once Arisia aged herself up. Once Arisia was, you know, all grown up, the two ended up dating, and eventually they would even live together, if you can believe that. Looking back on their relationship and date now, the awkwardness and just plain wrongness feels impossible to avoid in the context of the modern day. Number 1. Supergirl and Comet. Supergirl once dated a horse. Yep. Her own horse, Comet. Comet, however, wasn't always a horse and was once a minotaur that desired to be human. However, while Circe attempted to make his wish come true, she was tricked, and instead, the centaur named Byron was turned into a full horse instead of becoming a full human. Which is just such a Circe thing to happen, isn't it? Even though it was a mistake. Circe felt bad and gave Byron superpowers and immortality as a white horse to kind of make up for the whole turning him into a horse as opposed to a human. As As a horse, Comet also became a friend and ally to Supergirl, but little did she know he was not just a horse, but a minotaur trapped in the body of a horse who wanted to be human, and who also was in love with her. When Comet was temporarily transformed into a human, rather than reveal to Supergirl his true identity when she came looking for her horse companion, he decided to take up the name of Bronco Bill Star, keep the truth of his identity a secret from her, and woo her instead. What are some of your favorite superhero dates? Which superhero couples do you ship? What superhero dates do you think are the most awkward? Were there any ones that we discussed here that were new to you and that surprised you? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight. If you want to talk nerdy with me some more, head on over to Twitter, where you can find me at VampX13. That's all we have time for today, but until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.